work through differences. And this was a squash match. At this point, Triple H was on a downturn within the company because of antics that the Clique got into, and he was reverted all the way down in the company, and he had to work his way up. So he had a squash WrestleMania match. Not bad. Not a bad reward when you piss off the boss. AKAPADers, get ready for One Warrior Nation. A little bit of WCW history there that a lot of you, hate to say it, you guys forgot it. But don't worry, we're going to go over the life of the Warrior, James Hedrick, but we call him Warrior. He legally got his name changed. Alright, AKAPADers, get ready for One Warrior Nation. A little bit of WCW history that some of you may have forgotten. But don't worry, because we're going to get into the entire life of the Warrior. Thank you, WWE, for putting out this book, A Life Lived Forever. Warrior, made by his former enemy, James Hedrick. That's this guy. He legally changed his name to stick it to Vince McMahon. Later got reaccepted back into the company that castrated him, that cast him out, that exiled him, that had a hate campaign against him. Come on, they even did, you guys remember, Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior? You remember that DVD? The entire company was in on it, but later they just said, well, we'll take you back and we'll give you a lot of money. We have a book. And we're going to go through it. We're going to hit that drawing table. And I'm not going to read the entire book to you, but I just want to share it with you. And that's what we do here on Saturdays. I get a book from the library and I share it with all of you. The reason is because I like to present ideas outside of comic books and pop culture. Some ideas out there, and I get it, they're adjacent to comic books or they're aligned with comic books, but there's a lot of ideas out there that we just can't get from comic books. And if we're kind of hunched over that drawing table day in and day out, we need other stimulus and other forms of education. The life of the Warrior, in my view, is educational because this dude fought adversity. And everything that they sell, like the entire sell of the Ultimate Warrior story, in my opinion, is truthful and it's honest. This guy went through it all and he fought through it all. And there is no time that I don't flip through this book and start reading some of the passages, reading some of the writing, because we have views from his wife, from other wrestlers, but I just go through, and they're micro articles, but I go through some of the writing, some of the micro articles, and I get inspired and I get amped up. It's the only wrestler that has that effect on me, but it's also been that way since early on, because when the Warrior first appeared, my head exploded, but then he went away. And then he came back and went away very quickly. And then it really, at that point, wasn't until NWO that I got back. I mean, I used to, here at night, coming from South Philly, I used to watch ECW on late night local television. It was amazing. It was amazing because you didn't know what was real and what wasn't. And then blacked out again and pretty much came back during, a little bit of a fraction reference, but when the Shield came, and it was the Shield, CM Punk, and Ryback, somewhat the birth of what they now call the PG era. Ruthless Aggression completely blew by me. But thanks for the WWE channel, because I still call it that, I was able to catch up, and wonderful YouTube channels and all these things, all of this commentary that came up through the wrestling world. But one of the through lines, and I love this, is that with all the documentation we have now of wrestling, the Warrior is always up for debate. I love it. There's such a mystery around what's real and what's not around the Warrior. So let's get into it. We're going to hit that drawing table, rock and roll. Here it is, AKAPADers. Let's just admire, always believe Warrior. Come on. So when it comes to branding and kind of like the idea of some of the things we create, right? The Ultimate Warrior is a creation. And the part of that creation, we have to hone in on the beats of it and what works and what doesn't. This is no different than the long gestation period that some comic book characters take. I always reference how long it took the Punisher to really go from, having his snarly brows and hunting Spider-Man into a straight up crime, hate-filled vigilante, right? That took a while. And some other characters have taken longer. So for the Warrior, like some of the beats that we figured out, like as time went on, is really this green. And it's this colorway right here that he wore one time. And this colorway, the pink, no yellow. Yellow does sometimes get incorporated, but it's orange, pink, hot green, and black. WWE, they are masterful in honing this down, and they accelerate it. And in my view, WWE, the way how they hone down your personal connection to some of the brand of their characters, because that's what the wrestlers are, it's faster than anything we've seen with Disney, Star Wars, Marvel Comics, DC Comics. And part of that is, we're connected to personalities. And there is a little bit of extra trust that us as the audience get when we have a personality that we absolutely love. And that's a lot of what Warrior is to me. I mean, get this. This is fantastic, too. I don't know if you guys can read this. It says Warrior University. He was, of all the wrestlers at this time, Hulk Hogan was pipelined into licensing and big business, and he played along. The Warrior didn't, but he had his own pipeline. He was so entrepreneurial. It's insane. And no one in wrestling was doing that at that level. Okay, now, with social media, a lot of the wrestlers, they branch off real quick. They get their supplement lines. They go to OnlyFans. They get their own merchandise. It goes very quickly. But during this time, for him to even wear this during a Gold Dust match, substantial. And we get, again, posterized shots, action figure, right? Like almost all of the iconic looks in this book have already been made into action figures. And that's not much of a tall tale, because WWE and action figures, they go together like peas and carrots. But what I really like here, and I spoke about it before. So Triple H, okay? Triple H completely owns up to the State of the Union, their relationship with the Warrior, before they basically WWE 2K14. That's the video game that got him back into the conversation of the company. And at that point, they all healed. Like, look at this. This is the contract, but this is the note that he sent to Triple H. I mean, and look at this. These are two grown men who work through differences. And this was a squash match. At this point, Triple H was on a downturn within the company because of antics that the clique got into, and he was reverted all the way down in the company, and he had to work his way up. So he had a squash WrestleMania match. Not bad, not a bad reward when you piss off the boss. Origin story here, like, look at him young right here. Look, and that's like a double Windsor knotted tie. But look at our boy. It's almost just like, what do you eat to go from A to B? And I love the hair here. So the evolution of the Warrior's hair is of note, because the makeup doesn't work. And these are his young bodybuilding days. We have Sting over here. The two of them were the Blade Runners. Look, here's a reproduction of his Wrestling Commission State of Oregon card here. I don't know if that picture is the one, but I don't know. This looks like a scanned facsimile. So what I'm getting at here is the look. This is him as like the Dingo Warrior. He was Dingo Warrior. Him and Sting, they became a tag team. They were influenced by Legion of Doom. So they painted their faces. They called themselves the Blade Runners. And then during that time, they kind of went amongst their own ways to separate territories. And the Dingo Warrior was like born. And we see that the Dingo Warrior. Let's turn the page here real quick. The Dingo Warrior. Oh, right here. We skipped one. I'm sorry. See, like the Dingo Warrior, not quite there. Okay? Not quite there in the idea and the presence. Like you see a good shot here of him outside the ring. But when the hair comes in, and here's where it's Eric Von Elric from the Iron Claw. If you guys haven't seen that movie, please. Iron Claw, second greatest wrestling movie next to The Wrestler. And mostly because when I watch The Wrestler, I think of so many of those guys from ECW. But we get this matched physique. Okay, so the Warrior was like so lean when he premiered. It shook people up. And he got leaner and bigger. But there were rumors at one time, and this is like going to 96, 97-ish area, that the Warrior cuts his hair and they think it's Von Erich as the Warrior. Which is like somewhat of a trick that WWE is about to do now with The Fiend. They did it with Hall and Nash when they left to go to WCW. They had actors come in to play the characters that they owned. So these right here, we get these throughout the book. So these are illustrations and notes. It's almost like poetry by the Warrior. And these were available on his website at one time. You could get, I believe he would sell them between like $250, maybe even $350, but they were available. And that's how, like I said, entrepreneurial he was. He made the Warrior into a legit business. All that went away when he re-signed with WWE to become an ambassador and get into the Hall of Fame. Chapter 2, Rise of the Warrior. So this is really what, look, here we go. Look, the Warrior sheet music. But this is where we get into, look, his feud with Hercules. Look at the chains. Like, insanity. Feud with Honky Tonk Man, that really solidified him. And then to get into Hulk Hogan, the person that had to sell, he Honky Tonk squashes against the Warrior. It was like a 17-second match. And this is a little bit what I mean about the colors. See, like trial and tribulation, like test. These colors don't work so well. So a lot of what we see now from the Warrior, it's just what WWE knows works. So Rick Rude, the Rick Rude feud here, where they have a pose off, they have all these things. The Rick Rude feud, capturing the Intercontinental Belt, again a look that is echoed today. But that basically folds into a match with Andre the Giant. And previously, Hulk Hogan built his entire name up by body slamming the Giant. So this is a part of the wrestling psychology that's so important that I feel like so many people miss. Believably, storyline-wise, you had to work through something that we know the other guy had to work through, right? It's almost like a tier system. So once he worked through the Giant, we got, I don't know, my favorite WrestleMania match of all time. Hogan Warrior. And for the first time ever, champion versus champion. And Warrior, first time, gets both belts. Who's a dual belt holder. Here, I love some of these, like, little, this is like, these books sometimes are their own museums. This is the match notes. Like what the card of the matches are for WrestleMania. Amazing stuff. Yeah, and then it's Hogan Warrior rivalry. I can't speak too much on that. Warrior's best rank. So this is again, we saw something very similar with Ric Flair and the Macho Man. Ric Flair, Macho, and Warrior have had viral clips now, and it's a part of social media at this point. Ric Flair rant or an Ultimate Warrior meme is not uncommon for non-wrestlers or wrestling fans to receive those memes. From champions to parts unknown. So he has this really good rivalry with Sergeant Slaughter. And in my opinion, Sergeant Slaughter's heel turn was the first absolute great heel turn in wrestling history. He became, he kind of teamed up with the Iron Sheik. And this is Warrior in one of his classic looks, red, white, and blue. And I will even say at one time he would paint his own action figures for the Warrior website, and have almost like a 1-in-5 prototype available to buy, and those are in like $10,000-$20,000 now. But you could buy them; they were affordable. But yeah, fused with Slaughter, fused with Macho. I mean, look at this! Look at the crowd, and pretty much we start to slide. We don't get much of the Macho Man Randy Savage tag team. He feuds right here with Papa Shango, which is like a perfect feud, by the way, because like one is so mystical, and the Warrior again isn't a mystical character, but and we see that in the comic book where what he talks about and what he believes comes through, and it seems mystical. That's what makes the character so freaking unique. But yeah, so there was a little bit of this time too where he would often wear like the hat, and we get that in a few appearances. Like I said, like he did this appearance in Greece before his comeback, and that's erased from here. We have a little bit of his One Warrior Nation right here, WCW. Look, he's wrestling the NWO right here. And he essentially says here, like, if he knew where they wanted to go with the storyline and that he was going to have to drop everything to Hogan, that he would never have taken the money. That could be true. That could not be true. We don't know. But it really goes from WCW now, and we turn the page and we get into Hall of Fame. People, they own up to, again, we give some credit. The self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior, where the Ultimate Warrior here discusses how heartbroken he was, and he wore a face. He acted like this didn't bother him, and it did. But we get this, great thank you here, but I don't like the rest of this, because the rest of this is, except for that. Look at him on the bike. But the rest of this is, somewhat memorialized. And, we get the mask, which is awesome. That's his last appearance. I don't like talking about the sad stuff. I just don't. But we get like a countdown, his top 10 matches. None of them are anything outside the company, which is weird because he did do some good work with WCW. Honorable mention right here. Hercules Hernandez. We get a beautiful note from his wife. And the great thing is, it's like, this is how you know a woman loves you, okay? Because the wife, her name is Dana Warrior, because this guy, to screw over and win against Vince McMahon, legally changed his name to Warrior. But like I said, dude, like this guy, Hunter Hearst Helmsley in the intro mentions that they were two like tough as nails. He describes them. You have to be tough as nails to survive the wrestling business. A lot of people featured in this book are no longer with us, including Ric Flair, including Ultimate Warrior. It is a tough, harsh business, and navigating it, this guy did not make it look easy. But at the same time, he stuck to his guns. It's hard not to kind of give that to him.